Okay, so do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So basically, this is the main page of Padlet. As Joanne was saying, you basically can find almost everything. I mean, step by step. Every session will be, if, for example, I move to the session 1. Just a second. Because it takes a while. As you can see, you have the PowerPoint presentation. We are going to make a poll during this session. You find some reading materials which is specific to the session that you are attending. From the main screen, you have a tab which is preparation for reading materials, and if you click on it, you will be seeing a series of basically folders where you can get reading materials. On the right side, you will be directed to the Dropbox folder, and on the left side, you have some useful links that might give you some indication for the for site planning issue. You have a tab which is here, which is for question and comments. This will remain, if I'm not wrong, for the whole duration of the training, so we can look at them even the days after. This is helpful for us in case you have any general comment. Then you have a Padlet for assignment. When you click on it, there is the assignment. We have opted to have a kind of individual assignment which will last for all these 3 weeks of the session, and of course is the design of an emergency settlement. Then you have a tab here which is called tutor allocation. If you click on it, you have an Excel file with all the name of the participants, and you will find the name of the trainer that will follow you specifically during this training. You can contact him. You have the contacts in the page of the introduction session. We have split the participant because there are some of the participants who are not able to speak English, so they will be followed by Fares. Others will be followed by myself, and the rest by Andrea. So I think that this is it for now. We can now jump to the session of the day. Are you following me? Just give me a signal. How can I see the chat, Joanne, when I'm sharing?
At the top of your screen.
On the top.
The top.
Okay. Okay. The top.
If you go down to the bottom of the screen, everybody else, you can see reactions, and you can press on you press reactions, and you can put a thumbs up or a clap or something.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Pause, control.
Just at the bottom of the screen. I don't know if you're using it on a phone, where it is. It might be at the side, but anyway, that's great.
Now on the side, I see the participant, but I can.
No, that's if people are using a telephone to join.
Okay, that's fine, but I cannot see the chat. Okay, here we go. But still, I cannot see it.
If you click on chat on the bottom, it should appear on your right.
Yeah, but
Okay, now I can see it. I have it. It's just a little. It's simply because it's a little bit slow. That's it. Okay. Okay, I'm just sharing a test message. I hope you should have gotten it. Okay, guys, I think we can start with the session. I'm using the Padlet. I don't know whether you can see properly. Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking because I'm receiving some messages. Okay. Okay, I hope that everybody can see in the slide. Okay, I'm going to start. First of all, welcome. This is going to be practically the very first session of the training. And we're going to talk about the introduction of the site planning. Which is, I mean, this training is a focus on the process to assess and design emergency settlements. This is going to be the first part of this training. Before starting, also to familiarize a little bit with the system, I would like to ask you. There are two people in the waiting room, Joanne. Okay.
As far as I've tried to let him in, he's having joining problems. He can't, he's having technical problems.
Okay, okay, fine. So we're gonna make a kind of, I would like to make to all of you a questions asking what's the difference between shelter and settlement and if they are linked. And I would like you think about it and post your opinion, your ideas with few sentences, few words in Padlet. You should be able to, I don't know whether you can click directly on the link which is on this slide, but you should be able to open the relative tab and post your comment. Are you trying to do it? Is it working?
You should put the link on the chat now.
Okay, I can put the link of the chat.
Giorgio, I'll do that. Don't
Okay.
worry. Oh, have you got it?
Okay, fine, because otherwise it's a bit complicated for me to move. It's a bit complicated for me.
Giorgio, I'll do it. I'm doing it
Okay.
now.
Sorry, guys, I mistakenly closed the PowerPoint presentation.
It's on the Padlet. It's on that. I've just put the link on for your comments. So if you just put 3 words on there about what, and you use the link at the bottom. That's it. Yeah, somebody's done it. Khalil, you've done it. So you just put your 3 words on, and then we can see what you're. What is the question, Giorgio? I'll just type it in the chat.
The question is this one: what's the difference between shelter and settlement, and if they are linked? Okay. A lot of shelter make a settlement. Interesting. Okay, you guys, if you can put your name on the title so we know the name of the guy who put the comment. Okay, I think this is a kind of, I like what you are writing. I will look at it maybe because now we are running out of time. So carefully a little bit later, you can still keep posting if you like. And I will look at it because there are some, I have some comments precisely on what you just wrote, but very, very nice. Thank you for doing that. I will come back to this probably later. Okay, okie dokie. So let's start with So basically, the first question that we have to ask to ourselves, how should an emergency settlement be designed? And we have decided to go for 3 core elements for site planning. The first one, the settlement that you design, it has to be SARD and compliant, which in other words means you have to be concerned with the rules. We don't invent anything. There are other people that set for us some basic rules that we have to comply with. These rules are very important. We cannot ignore them because they are related to the well-being of the people. And then the second element of design an emergency settlement is capable to make the best use of the available urban and environmental related characteristic and resources. Basically, what does it mean? We have to work in synergy with the land, okay? Basically, we have to be smart. I mean, the mindset that we use for making any site planning, in one hand, we have to remain professionals because we are architects, because we are engineers. By the other hand, the whole process, it has to be kind of low cost. We are not dealing like in the private sector where we can count on a lot of resources and we, for example, can afford to make massive earthworks. We have to be smart. We have to work with environment. I mean, not to overlay with other design what we see on the ground, but to work in synergy. Another element is having people at the center of the design cycle. What does it mean? Means that we have to be human because our clients, of course, I'm sure you know all of this. I'm repeating stuff that you are well aware. But the point, we have to work. Our clients are people in need. People are suffering. So when we put our efforts to design an emergency settlement, try to make it kind of as much as possible a human settlement. We don't have just to comply, because if we comply just with the standard, we have something which might work, but it's not human. So there's always the capacity to include some elements of all the design that will make the inhabitants more comfortable. Am I going too fast?
Right.
Okay. I will try to slow a little bit down. So, but what are the features of an emergency settlement? Its criticalities and needs. In order to comprehend any settlement, we start something what we call the mesh, which is basically the structure of a settlement. The settlement that you're going to see, we define it as packed. As you can see from this photo, it is very dense. I mean, there is basically, there is even a very tiny portion of the settlements is for access. I wonder whether vehicles, in case something for emergency, health emergency, they can have access to here. I wonder whether you can lay infrastructures. So probably the designers or the Genesis, they didn't have any other option than producing something like that. But you have to be conscious that if you have such a settlement, you will have to face a lot of issues, and most of them are problems. This is definitely too packed. This is a completely different setting comparing with the previous one. This settlement, this is a refugee camps in Kenya. It's very spaced, which means there is a lot of distance. This definitely can be an advantage on one side, but can be another disadvantage on the other side. Because I don't know, by looking at this photo, I feel a kind of the sense of alienation, in the sense that the people kind of feel like there is nothing around. There is no other place where they can go. There are no trees. There are no elements in these settlements that make it feel like a human settlement. By looking at this photo, I see just a series of shelters which have been geometrically placed on the ground. This is a city-like settlement. This is still is a refugee camps. This is it's very famous, these refugee camps. This is Zaatari camp, which is hosting a lot of Syrians in Jordania. If we look at this photo, this is a city. It's a city not just because many people are living here, but the structure itself of the camp is suggesting that has been shaped like a city. This camp was very complicated to set up, very, very complicated, because in the initial phase, the site planners, the humanitarian community were providing housing units. And surprisingly, during the night, the people, the families were used to move around these housing units during the night because they want to shape their own plot in a way which was considered for them much more convenient and comfortable. So there has been a kind of chaotic reshuffling of this settlement, but this is basically the results. And which look like a city, and in somehow, for me, it is a positive aspect. This is a slide which show another refugee camp, which we have described as organic. As you can see, the streets, the roads are not a streamline. There is no regular grid. Every plot, I don't know whether you can see the pointer of my mouse. Can you see it?
Yes, it's possible to see.
Okay. So as you see, for example, every plot is different than the next one. And probably there were some elements on the soil of the ground that suggest them or force them to shape the plots as we are looking at them now, which is kind of interesting to see that this looks like a kind of natural settlement, which was not designed, but simply grown naturally because of the need. But it's not. This was a planet settlement. And then we have something which I call it very pragmatic. This is a typical UNHCR. This is an IDP camp in Iraq, for which is not that old, this settlement at the moment. And then I have a question for you all. I mean, this is very pragmatic because, as you can see, is very precisely made. Everything is online, everything is perfect. There is pools for the tree to see. There is the gravel on the soil. The tents are perfectly pitched. But I would like you, so the question is, what do you notice about this settlement in the photo? Just look at the photo and write it in the chat, please. Again, I cannot see the chat. I don't know whether the people are typing.
Maybe you can repeat the question, Giorgio.
Guys,
people write on the chat.
Okay, no problem. So the question is, I would like you to look at the photo. This is a newly built IDP camp, okay? And I would like you to tell me, what do you notice about this settlement, the settlement in this photo? There is something very, very kind of evident that you might notice.
Can you see the chat, Giorgio, or not?
No, I can't. I don't know why.
So someone put, so I'll tell you what's in it.
Now I can see it.
Okay.
I have to lower the Zoom screen.
Oh, okay. Otherwise I can tell you what's in it.
Okay, now I can see that. Okay. Okay. I see well organized, but I think the tents are so close to each other. Yes, what you see, actually, this one I'm pointing is the is a cooking facility, is a kitchen, and here in the front you have the family latrine and the family shower. Okay. Latrine span was temporary. That's not fair, Andrea. You are the expert. Okay, I'm not sure everybody post an answer, but this is this is a kind of important because yeah, that's precisely the answer, because when this camp was decided, was designed, that then they opted of having concrete family toilets and kitchen next to soft skin shelters, which is the tents. But the reason to do so is because most of the IDPs were from urban areas, and they are used to have family toilets, and sharing the toilets could have been complicated for them, and also putting could be complicated for the camp management as well. So, and also because of these people were coming from urban areas, normally these people were coming to the camps using their own vehicles, and they had a lot of belongings. So, so they needed space for storing the belongings. That was very, very important, because they were literally fleeing the town, and they were carrying a lot of belongings. So during daytime, they were using the kitchen to store safely their belongings. And also, there was a side consideration which was not made kind of official, but the point, it was believed that these people, they had enough resources to possibly and eventually improve by themselves the shelter, should the lifespan of this settlement be longer than expected. There is another element which was considered during the design of the settlement, which is also kind of important. And due to its geographical position, assuming that certain conditions would have happened, having this kind of settlement, it was thought to be easier to transform this settlement into something different, like a market facility, for example. So the water and sanitation infrastructure could have been left for a different purpose, which means instead of completely dismantling the settlement could have been transformed into something different for the benefit of the local populations over here. So basically, in a way to promote the reconversion of the humanitarian investment. Because just to be honest, practically speaking, a lot of money goes in a settlement like this one. I don't know the average cost per household in Syria, whether you guys have ever calculated, if I do an emergency settlement, how much money do I need for family? In Iraq, for example, was very high, because we were talking about something between 4,000 up to 8,000 US dollar per family. Guys, do you have an idea how much an IDP camp in the context where you're working is costing per household? You can put it in the chat. I see somebody not organized well, tents with installation, 320 US dollar, cement wall, 650. So we are talking about something like 1,000 US dollar per household. Because if you consider the tent, if you consider all the elements, you can see the cost per household is pretty high. Something like 1,200 US dollar per household, Muhammad, which is an average cost. I understand. I totally understand. from the photo which I've seen from settlements in Ilic zone, the settlement are, it's kind of basic. Still $2,000 considering other settlements pretty cheap. Okay, let's continue because we are running out of time. This is another typical. This is the typical UNHCR emergency settlements, and this is typical UNHCR style as well. But I would like you, if you have, we take just a few minutes, if you can raise your hands so you also get familiar with the system, and tell me what you notice on this photo, both in English. Arabic is not fine, unfortunately, because Fares is not with us. But just look at the photo. Tell me what you notice. And
Fares is there, Georgia.
Okay. Okay.
I'm here, yeah.
Okay. Hi, Fares.
On a silent mode.
You can use either the chat, but just look at the photo and tell me what you notice. What are your points? If you wish to speak.
You can either come off mute, either you can just come off mute because there's not many of us and you can speak, or you click on participants at the bottom of your screen and the names come up at the side and you can raise your hand if you want to speak. But otherwise you just come off mute and feel free to speak.
Joanne, do I have to do something or?
No.
Okay. Oops.
So what's the question you were asking?
Sorry, but how can I go back to the previous? Okay, so I would like the guys look at this settlement over here and tell me what they notice on this photo. They're just few elements. It's not rocket science.
So Khalil has put something in the chat. So he said community and sectors, but land not gravelled.
Okay.
Anything else? Other people? Anybody want to say anything else about that? We can't.
Latrines I shared, I guess.
Yeah. Communal latrines.
Anything
okay.
Else? I can't see the picture anymore, Giorgio. That's
no, sorry, because it's the only way for me to see the chat.
Yeah, there's nothing else. I'll tell you if there's something else in the chat.
Okay. So basically, I mean, this is very efficient. We are in the initial stage of creating an IDP camps. You see, because the soil where the tents have been pitched is the natural soil. All the roads have been digged with front loaders to protect the tents from flooding. And so in every single road has been created a drainage system to take the water out of the storm water out of the camp. Here you cannot see it, but there is a river close by. So to divert the outflow of the water. So this is a very massive approach, because at the time we could count on heavy equipment with like front loaders, gravelers, and whatever. So we simply made, first of all, the roads compact with soil and keep the tents protected. Then there are, of course, communal latrines at the first stage with cesspools. And you can see here that they are starting to create some communal facilities over here. There was an existing building inside, you can see here on the left, which has been incorporated in the camp and was transformed in a logistic facility and a warehouse. Okay. This settlement, as you can look from the photo, it's pretty isolated, but not that far. So you can see in the background that there are cities, there are villages. And unfortunately, this settlement over here was cut by the opportunity to go to these villages because of the river. And there was one bridge which was kind of a little bit far from this location. As you know, very often we cannot choose the ideal location, but in terms of topography, this was okay, easy to make. But in terms of possibility for the people living in settlement to interact with the existing urban setting was very limited. Okay. Any other comment? Do you have any question, comments? Okay, I think we can carry on. So basically, this is to say that the way we design an emergency settlement determines its capacity to be safe and stable, capable of hosting families and individuals for an uncertain period of time. So basically, yeah, the time when we design is really a key issue, because when it comes to emergency settlement, we are called as a site planner to design settlements that are meant to last for only a limited period of time, but eventually, and in most of the cases, they will last for years. And the inhabitants will not remain inactive meanwhile. They will start to do something on their own plots. I think you all know this aspect, but this is important when we design an emergency settlement, because we have to think what might happen if this settlement will last for very long time. Some weeks ago, I got a document from a settlement, an emergency settlement, which was done for Idlib. This is should be not far from Idlib. I don't know if any one of you was involved in the design and the construction of this settlement, and by just looking at the photo, I'm wondering whether this settlement is too squeezed, is too packed. So basically, just to be honest, I have high concern about this settlement, because in one hand, it has been decided to go for hard shelters with cement hollow blocks. But in the other hand, the layout is not the site planning that we should aim for. Probably it responds just to a geometrical organization and perhaps standards and indicators. But there is nothing over here which is telling me that the designer of the settlement has tried to make it human. The human aspect here is completely lacking. And then there is another aspect over here. So my question is, in between these two shelters, I wonder, what is this space for? So, because if I notice by looking at these two shelters, there are no windows over here. Is it a corridor? It has been a conscious decision to do that? Because the point is, this one in winter, if it's not closed, it becomes a wind tunnel that literally lower a lot the temperature of the shelters itself. So this is from an engineering perspective, it's a mistake. Or maybe this place will be used as a dumping spot. The people will use it just to dump stuff, waste and everything. It's also difficult to manage. Andrea, the other day, was making me notice that this has also some protections concern about. It's really this is not what I say a wise decisions in terms of site planning.
I will ask a question quickly, Giorgio. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Guys, if anyone needs any translation, please let me know. And anyone wants to speak, we are few people here, so you can just speak directly. شباب إذا أي حدا بده ترجمة أو شيء أنا جاهز. ما أتوقع لأنه الموضوع مطروح بصور وهيك، وأي حدا بأي وقت فينه يحكي لأنه عددنا قليل هون، فما في داعي لا raise hand، رفع الإيد أو شيء. بس حبيت أقول هالشيء هذا.
Okay. So even here, because for example, there is some certain attention to some aspect. Like for example, I see here there are some solar panels on the roof of these shelters. Some of them have been laid in between the shelters. Okay, which probably what I noticed, there is a kind of attention to some sustainability aspects, but in the other hand, it's the layout itself which is telling me that something wrong with these settlements. Probably this space over here is completely useless and wasted. So I'm going to propose you a kind of exercise about what if, for example, if you look at this photo, there are two levels. The green one, which is over here, you have the family plot with the tent in the middle, okay? And this might be the initial stage of the life on emergency settlements. But then for some reasons, this emergency settlement will last for months and years. So and the people start building up their own concrete shelter, or it's a humanitarian community. It is already deciding that they will move from a soft skin shelter to a hard shelter. So instead to split the houses completely separate to each other, you might opt to attach them like a row of houses so they can share, for example, at least one hall here in the middle and the other one here. I don't know whether you can see the pointer. This has some fairly good advantage because it means that the shelters will be warmer in wintertime and will be a little bit cooler in summertime. You can save a little bit of space for home gardening because they have a small but open courtyard where they can do kind of small activity for gardening, for example, to produce veggies, which is kind of cool. So basically in their environment, I mean, all along the streets, you might have a room which is used as a store. Then you might have a kitchen, and then you might have two rooms. And then in a second stage, for example, you might start to think to build family water and sanitation facilities and to shift from communal facility to family communal water facility to family water facility. One side and the other one. Of course, the road must be wide enough to accommodate this one. If we design a settlement in which the roads are too narrow, we have no possibility in future to use them properly. And then you can start laying a sewage system and to make it more and more sophisticated. And perhaps in a later stage, that some of the family might decide to use some of their rooms here for as a shop, because probably here there is another room, so they can make a business out of it, a micro business, but this is valid. So this is the way we should think the settlement, not think about the contingency, what we have to achieve now, but also what might happen should the settlement become more permanent. This is a question that you have always to ask yourself when you design an emergency settlement. But this layout lacks of taking in consideration something pretty important. What is it? Since we are few, maybe people can say something about it, even verbally. Is that okay? Anyone want to say something in the chat?
Fares, maybe you can just ask in Arabic if anybody wants to.
هلا هذا المخيم او الكتله من المخيم شرحها جورجيو بطريقه انه كيف الخيم ممكن تكون بالبدايه الخيم المعروفه العاديه اللي نحن نعرفها، بس كيف ممكن هالموضوع يتطور بشكل او باخر، سواء المنظمه نفسها طورته او الناس طورته بحيث عملوا كتل بلوك. وشرح الموضوع كلياته كيف ممكن يكون الجدران مشتركه، وهالشيء بيوفر وبيخلي الشلترز او المأوى مجموعه المأوى هي ادفى، وكيف ممكن تتطور بعدين لانه يصير في تواليتات وادواش خاصه بكل بيت لحاله بدل المشتركه، وكيف ممكن يتمد نظام صرف صحي، وكيف ممكن بعض البيوت تستغل بالمساحه تفتح محلات. بس هو عم بيقول بالاخير انه في شيء ناقص بهاللاي اوت هذا، بهالتصميم هذا، في حدا ممكن يقول شو هو الشيء اللي ناقص بهالتصميم هذا؟
Giorgio, can you go back to the picture?
Which one?
The main one, because we can't see it.
I can see it. I can see
Oh,
it.
you can see it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still on the picture.
It's just me then. Might just be me.
في أي تعليق يا جماعة؟ عم تسمعونا طيب؟
Because it's funny because I am in Italy, Andrea is in Switzerland, and Joanne is in England. So we are pretty sparsely around this planet.
And everybody else is in Turkey or Syria.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't see anyone wish to make a comment. Maybe there is something in the chat.
No.
No.
No comments. No comments. You are very silent. But guys,
no, we are still thinking actually about what is missed here in the layout.
Okay.
So I'm thinking I'm just looking to the axis, and I'm not sure if the privacy here considered, because I can see the walls. It is very connected between each other. But I'm thinking the other side about the access to the other surfaces. If it will be available to every shelter or not, in the same time and in the equity manner.
Okay, I respond. Now, it's a good question. This is just a scheme, it's not a design. Of course, you have to consider that in between here, there will be the wall in between the shelters. So this courtyard is very private. They're gonna have an access here, so from to the road, and they're gonna have a direct access to the water and sanitation facilities, to the shower and to the latrine. I think in this scheme, the privacy is very well considered, particularly in certain countries where the fencing is a very important element of the family plots and the shelter. Even myself, when I was working in Iraq, and particularly in the Middle East, I was trying to convince the people, the families living there, not to make any fencing, because in some cases we were providing them bricks for the construction of the shelter, but they were using the bricks instead for fencing their plot. I understand this is important. They feel more safe, more secure if they have a concrete fencing. But in this case, they don't have to fear anything. They are just sharing the wall, but this is completely separate. And here they're gonna have a wall on the as a front on the front road, and a wall over here, of course, to separate from the next family. We will come back to this on a later stage.
Maybe I can make a note on this drawing. The thing that I can say is that on the access road, you will have the septic tank, which is not the best solution because it might collapse anytime.
Yeah, fine. Because graphically speaking, this is actually was remaining. Having a septic tank is not the best option. I totally agree with you, even because there's going to collapse. But it might be possible that you might have some C-spools or some septic tanks which were done previously for communal latrines, and if it's the case, you can use them. You can keep using them for the family or for a group of family. Okay, but the point is definitely taken.
And I don't know whether this shared walls between the four shelters is good measure in case of fire.
I mean, the fire it's definitely a big issue. I think it's a lesser concern because when you have a fire, the wind is something that really increases the strength of the fire. Okay, for example, if you have separate shelters over here and you have a fire over here in the middle, I mean, these kind of narrow corridors are just like wind tunnels. If you have anything over here, such as a fire, it will be even increased because of that. While you have a more compact kind of layouting, is more difficult that the fire spread.
Yes.
And that's why when you design an emergency settlement, keep a safety distance in between tents, but we will come back to that. Because I've seen emergency settlement where the family plot was just enough for the pitching. But for example, if there is a fire in a tent and you have to react quickly, you have all the ropes and strings which are a barrier for the reaction. So we will talk about fire safety, which is definitely a big issue, because it happens too often that in emergency settlement, someone, even particularly children, dies because of fire. So I go on because now we are 10 o'clock. This is the main important issue over here. Of course, there are others, but the proper kind of the way we place on the ground a structure like this one. Because if this is south and I have the sun over here, this shelter will be privileged because they're going to have summer in winter, so they're going to be a little bit warmer in winter time. Of course, they will have to be protected in summertime, but that's another story. But they will have a better illumination, because if they're going to have windows which look inside the courtyard, these shelters over here, but even here, this one more or less, if on the bottom of the screen we have the south, we have good illumination, good insulation, which is good. But the shelters on the north, they will be less illuminated because they will have not direct sunlight. So this is to say that whenever you think you have designed a good solution, there is always something that you have to look at it from every possible perspective. Did I make myself clear?
Yes.
Okay.
For me.
Well done. Well done. Well done. So I'm shifting to the next slide, and then let's see whether this works or not. We have decided to go for a pool time to ask for you guys to vote. And now, Joanne, if everything goes smoothly, she'll put on Zoom, I don't know precisely how, a question that you would like to vote. You will be asked to respond to a questions and put what's the best option for you. Correct, Joanne?
Yeah, so I'm just going to launch it now. So you just click on whichever option that you feel is best. So the question that Giorgio is asking is, in your opinion, what do IDPs, families and individuals wish to find in an emergency settlement? And then you select the one which you think, excuse me, is the most appropriate. So you should see that now, and you...
Where?
It pops up. It's like المفروض تكون طلعت لحالها قدامكم.
Has it appeared?
Yes. We are responding now.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I cannot see it when I share my screen, but you will.
I don't know if you can see it anyway, Giorgio, because you are logged in as the host.
Is everyone able to see it, guys?
It should appear in the chat.
Yeah, it just should. No, not in the chat. It should pop up.
Yeah.
لازم تطلع لحالها هيك مكتوب polls فوق.
No, it should just be on the screen.
Yes, we answered.
Okay. There's only one person who's responded at the moment. It says one of 7 can see it, so 2. Okay. I'll just wait for you all to respond, and then I'll tell Giorgio what the results are.
Okay.
Wait a minute, they're not finished yet.
Yeah, that's fine. We can come back later to the results of the poll, but just quickly to have an overview of the results.
Anyone else want to put anything on it? Because only 3 of you have responded up to now.
Because
okay. So there is. Do you want me just to tell you quickly what they've said?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so 3 have said. 3 have said the first one: good quality shelters, water and sanitation facilities are less important. One person said food and safety. Another person said the possibility to reunite with friends and relatives. And another person said income generating activities. So it's kind of spread across all of them, and I can show people the results.
Okay.
I'm sharing the results with everybody. I don't know if you can see them.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Giorgio, can you see them?
no, unfortunately, I cannot.
No, I think it's because you're logged in as the.
Okay, no worries, because the session will be repeated this afternoon, and I would like to see the large majority of the participants, how they're going to vote, and we put them on the document, and perhaps in a later stage we will comment on that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm okay that there is a quite of diversity in the answers. I think it's important. Some of them are some of you believe that the engineering aspects are very practical aspects are the most important, but the others are pointing out that food, other friends, which is means social aspects, which are very, very, very important, and also income generation activities. That for IDPs might be easier than for refugees, because at least they are still in their own country. Okay, can we carry on? I think yes. Person-centered planning, and the process to design an emergency settlement is just an engineering exercise. This is a dilemma. Of course, there is a technical component which is fundamental, but we cannot. I'm sure you all are aware, but we cannot forget who are we working for, and why this is important. So basically, our clients in the large majority of the cases are children, women, and aged, because probably during the daytime, sometimes, I mean, the men are going outside of the camp normally, but not necessarily. There are also unaccompanied family where there is just a mother with the children, and the children will remain at the camp while the mother is going outside to try to find any kind of income generation activity or resources. So in daytime, children, women, and aged people are the people living there. So I'm sure you know, guys. I'm repeating stuff that you are far more aware than myself. But the point is this one: most of the times, children, they don't wear proper shoes. They wear flip flops. They wear sandals. They wear the shoes of their parents. And so, if we don't have a proper drainage system, it's a problem for them, particularly when the weather conditions are bad. Okay. And another element that you can look at this, you can understand by looking at this photo, that everything we do in an emergency settlement is easily and quickly ruined, damaged. You see the gravel here, it's in front of this tent. We have leftover water. So probably the drainage here is not working properly. Youth. I mean, particularly this is an aspect in any emergency settlement. There is an age which is kind of that we care about. Sometimes we design child-friendly space in this emergency settlement, but there is a phase of the life which is the use for the teenagers, that very often they have no space for social bonds. And this is another element that I would like you to think about. Personally, I strongly believe that the entire settlement, emergency settlement, as such, should be a child-friendly space. I don't like when we confine a child-friendly space. We create a space, sometimes we fence it, and we say, okay, we are done. We have done the child-friendly space, so the people, we have done what we are supposed to do. That's not enough. So the entire design has to focus on the human aspects. So this is another IDP camps. So a simple question: what's the main need of the population residing in these settlements? Guys, it's easy. I mean, we are few. Can you respond? Do you want to say something?
Can you repeat again?
I mean, read the question. What's the main need of the population residing in this settlement?
شباب حدا جماعة أنا شباب وبنات في حدا بيجاوب؟ فينا نحكي فورا يعني.
Yes, hi. I can see in this photo it is very crowded. There is no space to move. There is no roads, no privacy, and I can't see anything you mentioned. Even if there is no friendly space for the children to play, as I can see they are playing close to the wash facilities. I can notice many of satellites. So I think this is poor design, and it is very crowded, and nothing achieved in this settlement.
No, very well done, Khalil. Excellent, excellent. So, anyone else? Anyone else? So I just go quickly. Now, what you have said is perfectly correct. But this is the first element that you notice on this settlement are the dishes on top of basically almost any shelter over here as a dish. So basically, why they have the dish? Because they are watching the TV, or because they need to be updated about what's going on. Maybe they want to follow the news about the conflict they are fleeing away from. So maybe might have been kind of interesting that the question: have you ever thought to include a media center in your design? Where residents might find a useful communal space.
This is the first time I hear about.
Okay, so this is to say that yeah, you're right. This is the first time, but the point is, we have to look behind. Of course, first of all, we have to comply. We have to, to respond to basic and fundamental needs, such as shelter, water and sanitation, food, protection, of course. But we cannot forget that maybe there is the chance that we think, according to the community needs, something more to add in this settlement. Maybe a media center over here where they have a proper TV screen where the people can sit together, they can look at the news together. There's someone that kind of organizing that might be a good point, might be the added value of these settlements.
Well, then give me a donor who can accept that.
Yeah, but it doesn't cost that much. This is definitely a very good point, Faris. This is definitely a good point, Faris. But this is why, and now we'll come to the next phase of this presentation, why we have to be very precise in designing an emergency settlements, because their resources are very limited, very, very limited. So we cannot afford to waste the resources that the donors is giving to us. If we are capable to save something, we might use this saving maybe for a small media center. It doesn't mean that we have to build a two-story building, but maybe we can use one of the shelter as a media center. But I'm just putting on the table an idea. Okay, I hope you understand what I mean with this.
Yes.
So basically, the site planning, when we design an emergency settlement, so of course there are the technical aspects, which are of our most concern, which are those one in the red, where we have to make the technical and the design component. We have to think about the settlement, which is a kind of container of shelter. We have to think about infrastructures. But then there is an aspect which is related to resources. There is an aspect which is related to the camp management. There is the soft component, which is protection, the activities that people will do that. And then there are the inhabitants itself, which are the people living there. They are our clients. And they need to kind of participation. They need social bonds. They need probably education. And of course, they need support. So when we design a new settlement, we are designing the homes of families. So Faris, I know that you are not the only architect, but there are a couple of other architects and engineers. Normally, engineers are very much focused on a very technical aspect, numbers and indicators, which is absolutely fine. We architects need engineers. But the other hand, we have to keep a space in our mind that when we design an emergency settlement, we take in consideration that it's a multidisciplinary approach. This is to conclude, if we wish to avoid marginalization, we have to start from the very beginning and putting all our capacity to favor social strategies within and outside the emergency settlement. Site planners should have a multidisciplinary mindset, willing to work jointly with protection and social colleagues, putting human needs at the center of the design cycle. This is very fundamental. So this is to conclude. I show you these photos, and I'm wondering perhaps the WASH officer didn't consult with the protection colleagues. I hope you understand what I mean with this comment for this photo.
واضحة الصورة هون. هو بيقول إنه يعني على ما يبدو الوش أوفيسر هون ما سأل العالم أو ما سأل البروتكشن إنه بصير هدول ينحطوا هيك، وواضح ليش السبب يعني.
That's clear.
Okay, sorry guys. I was expecting you were all laughing, but no one is laughing. No worries, no worries. This was
No.
a kind of a joke. I had to speed up because we are running out of time. So the first part of the presentation is over. I don't know whether you have any question, anything to ask. Go for it. No question?
No question. It's clear up to now.
Okay, I see now right now a comment, but I will look at them later. Okay, correct, good. Okay, that's good. So I think the first part of the presentation is okay. I hope you enjoyed it. Then we will move to the second part. If you like, we can take a very few minutes off, 5 minutes off before shifting to the next one. Is that okay for you all?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Giorgio. So people
5 minutes will be good.
have
Yes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, we will get back here in 5 minutes. You are forced to shift the position of the tents to other location because you have not taken in consideration, for example, a boulder, a depression, or whatever. So that's very important. I think I have to keep it shortened. So I think this is it for now in terms of presentation, guys. If you have any question, go for it. Shoot.
Yeah, thanks. I have one question.
Please.
To draw this streamline, I know you just draw a line between the higher point and the lowest point, and as much as possible, if the contour lines been close to each other, that would make you more accurate. But how they draw the streamline, since it is very far between each other, the contour lines, and I don't understand how the streamline was being drawn here.
Okay. To design, I have one question. Sorry, I have two answers. The first one is that when I have designed this one, I was based on the interpretation that I was making of this contour line. Over here, you see that there is a turn. All the contour lines are turning. So I was assuming, and this is the slope going down. So I was assuming that this one could be the best place to lay the outflow stream of the camp if needed, based on the contour lines. Of course, they are touring. So basically, this is a sort of kind of valley. Okay. This is a way to do it, which is very kind of basic and rude, if I may say. But in the other hand, there's software, and we will go back to that on the next session when we will deepen the use of a certain software, and Andrea will teach you very well on this one. Basically, they are the software such as Global Mapper that they made the calculation for you. It's the software itself that, based on the contour lines, the elevation of the land, calculate and visualize the position of the streams, which are very important to take into account in any single design. But we will go back to that. But also keep in mind one thing. what the software is calculation, it's just a calculation, cannot be given for granted. You get the point? Then you have always to cross-check in the field. More accurate is the survey, and it might mean that the stream that you come up, it's fairly precise. So it always depends on the level of the details of the survey. If you, for example, like in this case, this one, the red one was based on contour lines taken from the satellite. The software calculates this one and make it. But you can, for example, specifically with the global mapper, you can do a very detailed topo survey. You geo-reference it, then you load it in global mapper, for example, and you give the chance to global mapper to calculate more precisely where the streams are, because you have done a good survey. If you have not done it, the software can just rely on the contour lines that you download from the web. So what you have is a simulation, and as such, don't trust simulation. Over. Did I make myself clear?
Yeah, thanks. Very clear.
Sorry. Any other question? I think there are no questions at the moment.
No, Giorgio. So before we finish, I think you're kind of finishing up. But before we finish, you need to go through the assignment.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Let's try to do in this way, guys. I don't share my screen, but you guys go to the Padlet of the session 1 training. We are few, so we can do that. Are you looking at your Padlet?
If everybody takes themselves off mute, and then you can just speak.
Yes, please do it.
Yes. What do you want me to do?
Yes,
I am as well.
Okay.
me too.
Muhammad? Haya?
Yes, me too.
Okay. So
Yeah,
if you,
yes.
okay, cool. If you are looking at your at the page site planning training session 1, you have, as you can see, the 2 PowerPoint presentation. You have the full explanation of the pool. You have the report of the JV settlements in Ethiopia, and then you have. Please post your comments here that we can read them even later. And then you have the participant assignment. You click on it. Okay. And you will have 3 tabs. The first one is the individual assignment technical. The second one is non-technical, but is empty. And then you have the tutor allocation, which I explained before. Just click on the individual assignment technical. We were discussing whether to make a group working sessions, but since we expect you just to work on this training, even when we are not online, it might be complicated for you guys to organize yourself and work together. If you have the chance to do that because you need one of your classmates, go for it. Maybe some of you live in Gaziantep, you have the chance to work together, go for it and just communicate it to us. But going back to the site planning exercise, basically the idea is to design a settlement together. Okay, how? I would like you to identify a suitable land to set up an emergency settlement and justify with few but clear bullet points why this land is suitable. And feel free to refer to the Sphere standard or UNICEF standards. Some additional support material can be found here. So you just click on the link. if you have familiarity with Google Earth or any other GIS software, get the GPS coordinates so we know why you have, where is the land that you have chosen. Okay, just any land. It can be even in Gaziantep. You've seen an empty space big enough to accommodate 80 households. Go for it. Okay. I just want to make one point clear. Unfortunately, during this training, we will not have time to teach you how to use in detail software such as Global Mapper, Quantum GIS, or other GIS software. There is no time to do that. We will show you some of the capabilities of this software, and you make a self-learning process. If you decide these software are suitable for you, they're good enough, and you will continue using them. But the web is full of software. You will find plenty. You might decide that you prefer to go with another software. That's not a problem for us. But this is to say that you are not obliged to use this software to make in this exercise. You can use also your bare hands. Make a sketch on a white paper. For me, it's okay. You will take the photo and you will send it to us. It's fine. Okay. So don't rush. Think about your task and seek advice from your trainers, either by email or during the coaching sessions. We have 3 weeks to do that. And so take your time. Again, use the software, drawings, schemes, handmaids, whatever you like. And next steps will be communicated in the following section, even according to what you do. First of all, I know that you all are very busy in the field. So the idea was to create a task which was not too much complicated. So 8 hours is pretty small. We can think to carry on with these exercises by scheme. So what we have to learn is the process, is the mindset that we need to have for trying to make a good sun planning. Over.
It might be nice, Giorgio. So just to make it clear that there are other steps in the actual assignment. So this is the kind of the first part that Giorgio has set, but the other parts will come along afterwards. So while he says you've got 3 weeks to do this, what might be good is, though, if you find a photo or a map or something, or an area of the that you're looking at, it would be good to put it on the Padlet under participant contributions under session 1. So upload those. And then we can see them, and maybe what we will do is get you to present them back in session 2 to say, you know, I chose this piece of land and these are the 3 reasons why I chose it. So if you can do that, that would be good, because then we get some insight into what you are thinking also, because there is no right or wrong answer to this, but yeah, it would be good, please, if so just find a photo or a map or something and put it on the participant contributions under session 1.
Yes, Giorgio, I fully agree with Johan. If you give also the location, let's say in Google Earth with some GPS point, then everyone is working on the same area with different ideas, and this can be a discussion based on the same, let's say, location, which help us to have different idea and different approach.
Well, I personally, I'm sorry, guys, we have not actually discussed this one yet among us, because I wrote this exercise yesterday. So personally, since I'm more interested about the process and the challenges that you might meet in the in the field, in the real life, I have no problem if you choose different locations, because all the locations are not equal. Actually, I will prefer you choose something which is not easy to carry out because for many reasons, but probably you have no other option, like in the real life. This is the land that you have and you have to work with it. So this is just my personal opinion. Maybe perhaps myself and Andrea will discuss maybe today a little bit more, and we will get back to you with a clear idea whether we go for the same land for everybody. But the point is, for people who are familiar with GIS, they can choose whatever they want. They can choose a land in Uganda, as far as I'm concerned, which is not the case for not technical participants with non-technical backgrounds. In that case, they will use different means to carry out the task, and I will have to tailor the task according to their skills. So maybe we will think and we will communicate to you by today. Over. Anything else, guys?
Nothing, thanks.
Fine for me.
Okay, I think this is it for now. So you see, this is the very first session which has been kind of achieved, and I think we are kind of okay. Are you okay? Are you happy, people? Are you happy? You want to tell us something? Just speak up. We are
Yes,
colleagues.
yes, we are so happy.
No, that's fine, because you have to consider that we are in a context where we are the trainers, but who cares? I mean, maybe in 2 months we will come over in Gaziantep and we will be colleagues. You get the point. So speak up openly, guys. There is nothing to hide. I say a lot of bullshit myself, so don't worry, guys.
Thank you, Giorgio, for the great information. Actually, I had an issue in my connection because I didn't active enough.
Okay, thanks, Mohammed. Okay, and also please keep in mind that you have to report high remarks, high opinion of this training, because this is compulsory. I'm just kidding. Eh? I'm kidding.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Giorgio. Thanks to everyone.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ciao.
So the next session is on Thursday.
Thank you.